Thanks everyone for joining us. I'll start by recognising the traditional custodians of the land upon which we meet and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. You've seen the statement that the club released in the last hour. Jason and I are here to answer any questions you might have as a result of the statement.
Blake, what were the circumstances that Sam was referring to in this statement?
I think Sam's got a fair bit on at the moment. He's about his partner Lucy's about to give birth in the next few weeks to a baby. He's getting more and more involved in terms of preparing for Warrington and the head coach role there, and recruitment and retention for next season, and even having some discussions with the team there now to try and ensure that they finish the season in the strongest possible fashion. So they're the two major reasons why Sam and the club agreed today it was in everyone's best interest that he is allowed to focus on those two items.
Do you understand that we're sort of questioning that though, because of the stuff that's been going on in recent days?
Yeah, I understand why you want to question it. I can say categorically that there's no suggestion here at the club that Sam or John have leaked any information to the press in the last few weeks and months. The decision was made after a good conversation with Sam and some of the board and the football management and CEO today.
He's a legend of the club. It's hard to for us to maybe wear that he just quit a week out from the end of the season or before the finals.
Yeah, Sam's a legend of the club. He'll always be a legend of the club. What he did on the field speaks for itself. Everyone knows that. But it's also about Sam's got a job at Warrington next year. He made that decision a few weeks ago. Good luck to him. He sees himself as a head coach and he wants to try to be a head coach. He's going to do that at Warrington. He's got, as I said, a partner who's about to give birth, and he wants to concentrate on those two things.
I've got to believe it's like almost like a situation like this, so close to the finals, and you are fighting to get in the eight. Like the situation with Sam must have become untenable to make this kind of a call. Like it's got to have a destabilising effect to some degree.
Oh, not at all. You know, it is what it is. You know, it's decisions being made. Both supportive of the decision, and we get out here and train. That's a big part of what the last 2 days have been about. It's been about the talk is going to be there. Everyone will say what they want to say, but what we can control is what goes out on the field here. Train today. We got a good week of prep before we start worrying about who we're playing next week, and that's what we'll be focusing on.
Jace, did Sam ever say to you that he had an issue or he didn't agree with the standards that were being set here at the club with some of the players?
Sam and I had many discussions. It's not something I'm going to be talking about publicly. They're discussions between Sam and I, and I'm sure Sam will respect that as well.
Is it the reason he's gone?
We all have differences. You know, I've many conversations with Wayne Bennett, and every coach that I've worked with, we all have differences. But you know, there's a lot more external factors as well, as Blake's mentioned, in terms of the job and the load that takes on you before he's going to Warrington, and Lucy's about to have a baby as well. So they're all factors that pour into it. But my focus now is to getting the team ready for 2 weeks' time.
How do you feel though, hearing that there are people within the organisation who feel as though that there are double standards and special treatment being given to Latrell and Cody? How does that sit with you?
I have no issue with it. People can say and do whatever they like. I know what's going on inside the four walls. I know my relationship with Cody and Latrell in particular, and I know what the boys value out of both of those guys. And like I said, we'll bunker down, we'll come together as a group, and we'll focus on the Roosters in 10 days' time.
Jason, did you want Sam out of the club?
I didn't want Sam out of the club, no. But it is what it is. As decisions have been made, we move on.
So, JD, one of the big criticisms is the kind of the treatment Latrell's got. Are you confident with how you've handled him this year, like the calf, lengthy layoff, and then his form the last couple of weeks?
I'm not a physio, so I can't describe to how I handled Latrell when his calf was injured. You know, that's for the medical team, and he had some issues in and around the calf, and it was a 3-month layoff. You know, it's really hard to come back for any player in season, but you know, Latrell's a marquee player for us. And he's a player that we believe, and I definitely believe, can win us a premiership. And that's our focus, and that's where it's going. Like I said, any conversations I have with Latrell and with the team, they'll stay in-house, and that's how it should be.
Jason, are you strong enough with the team?
I'm very strong, yeah. You know, I understand the leadership model that we want to create and that we've been creating for the last 2 years, and I'll double down on that. I know where it's going. I'm very confident about where it's going, and I know that the group of leaders that are leading it will deliver. I'm very confident of that.
Blake, did Sam ever come to you with concerns?
Not really. Sam and I have a lot of discussions. Sam's, as you said, a club legend here. And one of the things that we wanted to put in place for Sam was a career plan. Like all of our coaches and all of our coaching staff, JD we did that for JD a long time ago as well. So we've had discussions about his career. Sam made a decision that he felt it was in his best interest to go to Warrington to further his career, and we accepted that and acknowledged that.
So he never raised those issues that we've just spoken about?
About
Double standards and preferential treatment?
Never about double standards, no. And I just want to back up what JD said then. We've been on a journey for 2 years in trying to give the playing group, and particularly the senior leaders and emerging leaders in the players, more control and influence over the direction of the club. We've got a strategic plan launched today with all of our staff, and Campbell Graham, Pete Memazelos, Lachlan Ilias and Alex Johnson were key to that, along with our senior management team. So when people talk about whether the players are meeting the standards or driving the standards, we've actually asked them to drive the standards. We've worked with Shane McCurry, one of the best leadership consultants in Australia, to put together a program both on and off the field where the senior players have more influence over the standards, how we behave, the strategy of the club in its entirety.
Just on that, I don't know if it's a storm in a teacup or not, and it's definitely not the crime of the century, but Latrell at the music thing the other night and having a beer on stage, is that what you want from a marquee player that you guys need, fully committed to win a premiership?
Well, I understand that, when you're having those things out there and you don't play and you don't get the result, then that thing's going to be talked about. But in the incident on its own, there was probably half the NRL at the Luke Combs concert. Latrell was extremely fortunate to be brought on stage and spend a moment with one of the greatest country singers in the world at the moment. And, he slugged a few shots of beer and threw the can in the air, but he was the first bloke in the building on Thursday morning. He trained the house down. His prep has been, during his injury time as well, has been first class. He lives the standards that we talk about. He drives the standards inside these four walls. At the moment, our team's we're lacking confidence, and you can see that out in the field. You can see that there's doubt and there's a lot of noise going on between the ears. And when that happens, sometimes your body language doesn't look great, and that doesn't reflect well to people watching the game. I understand that, and we're working really hard to address that. And I thought on the weekend it was a high quality game of footy, really high quality game of footy from a team that's playing some really good footy in front of a packed house. And the couple of things didn't go our way, especially when the score was 12-4 and the game got away from us. But there's some real positive signs in there, and that's what we'll focus on this week and focus on getting the job done.
What discussions were held this morning to clarify John Morris's tenure at the club?
Yeah, I think it was a discussion with both assistant coaches as to whether they wanted to be here and try and finish the season off as well as we could. We've got a big game, as Jason said, against the Roosters next week. If we win that, we're in the top 8, and we firmly believe we've still got a team that can win the comp and we can go on a big run. And the question was asked of everyone, do you think you can get on, or is that the preference, to get on and work together for the rest of the season? John was yes, and Sam and the club agreed that Sam has got some other priorities to work on, in that his partner's about to give birth, and he's got the Warrington job, and he's becoming increasingly involved in preparation for next season, and Sam felt that it was in his interest not to.
Is Sam welcome at the club?
Of course. Sam will always be welcome at this club. His deeds on the field speak for themselves. His contribution as an assistant coach on and off over the last few years speak for itself. So Sam is always going to be welcome at this club.
Like, with all due respect, no one's going to believe that Sam Burgess left a week out from the start of the finals potentially for those reasons there. Did you feel though Sam was let down by the club? Did he feel as though he was let down by the club?
That's not the discussion we had with Sam this morning, that he felt let down by the club at all.
You don't hold a meeting just to talk about, he wants to concentrate on Warrington. There are obviously issues that have been bubbling along, and for John to stay and Sam to leave, obviously Sam feels strongly about what his views are and not being heard at the club.
I think Jason's just said there's some discussions between him and Sam that will remain within these four walls, but overlaid with that is the birth of a child in the next 3 weeks, which is significant. Lucy's from England. She doesn't have her family here, so that will essentially demand some time from Sam to be there for that and prepare for that. And then he's increasingly involved in Warrington. So I think he accepted a job 3 weeks ago at Warrington. He's getting more and more involved in recruitment and retention. He's looking at video. He's speaking to the players there at the moment to try and make sure they finish their season on the best possible fashion to set up a really good year next year. So in some ways, to answer David's question, there's probably more going on in Sam's life than there is in John. So that was why the decision was made.
Have you spoken to Latrell or Cody in the last 48 hours?
Me?
Yeah, or the club. Have you sat down with them in regards to the things that have surfaced?
I think Jason has spoken to both Latrell and Cody, and I've swapped some messages with them.
I've had multiple conversations with them. That's what's disappointing when stuff like this gets out, and two people are put on show over it. But they understand and trust in the belief that we have in them, and we believe that issues that are being talked about, they can be talked about. We know what exists inside the four walls. I'm really confident, especially with Cody and Latrell and the rest of the leadership team, that they'll drive the standards over the next couple of weeks and we'll be playing finals this year.
So they're not dominating the club, they're not running the team.
Dominating? I think, you know, Latrell's a big presence, you know, and as Sam was when he was playing. But to say that he's dominating the club is just, he's a part of a leadership team. Cameron Murray's our captain and does a fantastic job as a leader of this club. Is he dominating the club? No. That's just a comment that's ridiculous. I mean, he was out for 3 months. Who was dominating the club then? You know, and he was unfortunately spent 12 weeks on the sideline. The start of the year we were 8 from our first 11 and top of the league, and no one was talking about anyone dominating anything. When you lose, then people look for cracks. And at the moment, we don't need to look out external, we need to look internal. We need to get our job right, and we need to get out on the field, and we need to do what we get paid to do. My job's to coach, their job's to play, and get excited about playing footy together. And I felt like last weekend we showed the signs that we're getting there. We're not far off, and again, we played a high quality game, and all the numbers tell you that. The GPS numbers, the intensity of that game was a top quality game of footy, and we more than were in that fight. So we'll take the confidence out of that, and we'll look forward to training this next week and a half.
What about Cody having a crack at the captain's run? I think it was last week. Did you have a conflict with him at that, or what exactly happened?
Honestly, I have a conflict and a crack with players all the time. You know, if we're going to write a story about everyone who has a crack on the field, you know, we're under pressure. There's no doubt about that. We're all under pressure, and tensions, they fly sometimes, but it's not a drama at all. I mean, it's something that happens as a coach. As a coach, the interesting thing about the whole thing, in 1 minute we're saying we're too soft on him, and they're running the club, and the next minute it's I'm falling out with everyone. So which one is it? Am I too hard on them and fighting with them, or am I too soft with them and letting them run the club? So it's, at the end of the day, we can't control what's said. You guys will just decide what narrative it goes down. But for me, I'm really comfortable where we're at. Looking forward to the next week and a half, and looking forward to finishing in the 8 as we've worked hard to do all year.
Jason, there's plenty of fans upset by what's happening this week and calling for your head. How do you respond to that?
I can't respond to that. There's nothing I can say to that. You know, all I can do is coach a footy team and get results on the field, because that's what they want to see, and that's what I'll be focusing on.
Like, what was Russell's has a strong relationship with Sam Burgess that goes back many years. What was his view on this?
I don't know. So
was he consulted?
I don't know. It's a matter for the board, really. Russell, James, Mike Cannon-Brooks, all point directors to the board. These are decisions that are made by the management team with reference to the board, not the owners.
Jace, did you feel like you had the support of your coaching staff?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's 100%. I have no issue and never have had an issue with John Morris. Let's just make that very clear. You know, and do at times as coaches we have differences. Of course we do. That's why we have assistant coaches. That's why we have different voices. But at no time did I feel like there was anything going on untoward. And Sam's made the decision. I wish him well. I think Sam's going to be a great coach in Warrington, and there's no doubt he'll be back here one day. There's no doubt about that, and I wish him well. I wish him, Lucy's family well. We move on, get ready to play next week.
JD, how do you get everyone together to win a comp now? It's hard enough to do it when everyone is aligned and there are no distractions and you just focus on a prize, but this here today speaks to a distraction.
Yeah, it does, but we're not playing for 10 days. You know, it's not something that any of us in this position want, but it is what it is. We're out here, we're fronting it, we're dealing with it, and we'll get on with playing footy. I can't answer your questions about how we do it, how we're going to do it. I've got an idea of what I'm doing, but the results will be proven next Friday night when we play our first home game in over 4 or 5 months at home, you know, and I'm looking forward to that. I cannot wait for the game in 9-10 days' time.
Will John Morris be here next year?
They're discussions that are ongoing. You know, that's not a discussion for today, but John Morris will be in this club right now, and he'll be coaching here over the next few weeks.
Blake, probably an awkward question to ask, but I mean, Jason's contract hasn't been announced yet, or his extension. I haven't seen it announced. Is he here for the long term?
Yes.
And what's the next 3 years? Or?
Yep. Yeah, sorry, I thought it was a yes or no question. Is he here for the next 3 years? Yes.
So do you feel like you're obviously going to have to fill your at least one assistant's role and possibly 2 next year. What are the kind of traits you want from those people coming on board?
Again, no desire to discuss any of that right now. My desire is to get the team focused on training on Friday, Sunday, and get ready for Roosters next week. Outside of that, that's all I'm thinking about.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate that.